6 game devs make a game without communicating? I'm sorry, but does the word communication just not... Let me see. Define communication. Define communication. Imparting or exchanging of information. Yeah, that's basically exactly means of sending or receiving information, such as phone lines or... So you put each of these people within a box and didn't allow any information to pass between them at all? I don't think that's what you mean. I don't think that's what you mean. God, it makes you so mad. It irritates the shit out of me. It really does. It really, really makes me mad.
What the former empress of China said is kind of true. Mindfulness, you don't really have control of your thoughts. You don't really generally. I guess just always, you have thoughts come up, and the part of mindfulness that was helpful, I guess, was just recognizing those thoughts, trying to understand where they're coming from. Observing them and feeling the feelings that come along with them. My brain says this tingling feeling is a light, and I can observe that and understand that it comes from my religious upbringing, but also possibly a connection to a greater consciousness. You don't really have control over it. I assume that's what you meant, that there's no free will. That maybe you meant more in the greater field, that there's no free will at all, which I kind of do agree with, generally speaking. But I don't know if that is necessarily a helpful view. Like, I have about as much control over my thoughts as I have control over the water that's flowing. I don't really. But I guess humans do, right? Like this is a human constructed stream. And you do that by modifying your environment and giving more credence to the thoughts that come up that you prefer having. Yeah, that's like the kind of idea, at least. The mindfulness, I guess, is a bit constrained. I was talking with the guy who posted that other video that I was responding to. And I guess for him, and I guess it makes sense, is that it's taking the concepts of mindfulness and applying it to, like, as a framework for existence itself, rather than as just a way of interpreting your own cognitive processes. I mean, the world is a cognitive process, isn't it? At least through the headless mindset. The external is just a reflection of the internal. And we're all part of this big thing, and we're all the same thing in that context. Yeah. I need to read the rest of that comment to remember what I was going to say additionally. So I have to close this video now. What is that playing at? Everyone, we're talking about
this video about the 6 game devs. Like, one person makes the sprites, right? The sprites themselves are communication. They communicate something about the intentions that those sprites have for their existence, right? And it's not like the person who then uses those sprites or whatever, or the sound designer, it takes it and has to follow through with what that communication and that signaled intention is. But if there was literally no communication, right, like, then it would just be like, well, I'm just gonna use sprite number 1, and I'm going to assume that it's going to be its own separate file, and I'm going to assume that it's a 32 by 32, and hopefully it hopefully it is, and then like it gets put together and it's like, no, actually I made 16 by 16 sprites and they're all in one sprite sheet, and so nothing works. That would be how it would go. I'm fine. It's okay. This is how I'm processing this.
I guess I kind of covered most of everything I wanted to say. There's a bit about what most people trapped in media don't really get out of that, because they don't spend time thinking about their own thoughts. Generally, they want to they hide away from their thoughts by drowning them out with the media that they consume, and I guess there's nothing wrong with that if that's what they choose to do. It's kind of depressing that people are wanting that more than they want to understand themselves, but I don't really think about that kind of stuff, like with what most people are doing, because it doesn't really help me, and sometimes an egoist who only thinks about myself. It's like for periods I've had thoughts of trying to make the world a better place, for everyone, trying to open people's eyes and wake them up, but it's not really something I want to feel is my calling. It's too stressful and too hard, right? Like, doing that takes devoting your whole self to it, and I don't know if I want to do that, and I don't know if I'm really capable of doing that. And so yeah, I feel like probably the best thing would be if all of it went away, and all the media kind of control just went away, and people were just forced to reckon with themselves. But that would be super painful for a lot of people, and a lot of people would just run to something else, right? Like if TV wasn't around, if the internet wasn't around, where would people go? Probably like books and physical media, because it's another escape. This bitch, this virtual bitch, S-E-S, how do you pronounce that? S. She doesn't say how to pronounce it. She only ever writes it. She comes along with a book list. So I've been reading No Longer Human, looking for the moon over the mountain. Can't really find it. I looked on LibGenesis and it's not there. Pretty uncommon, but it happens. These damn planes are so loud. Oh my god. So it's this app called Alter Ego, and it's like a clicker game, right? Like you can play it totally as just nothing but a clicker game. You click the little thoughts balloons that show up and accumulate your ego score. and then it has books that you read in the context of the game to accumulate your passive ego. But the better way to view the game or whatever is to literally use it as a book reading list, I think. So that's what I've been doing this time. The first time I played through it, I had the thought that I could do it that way. And the game is all about like interpretation and how what is real, you know. And in the game, it's like she is a real person, and you can make her as real as you want, right? By giving it more of that energy, more of your cognitive thoughts, and imbuing into it your own life, right? So Ys becomes an actual thought entity within your own conscious mind in that way. And that's basically what the game is about, right? Like it's actually about that. And it allows itself to be engaged with very shallowly, if that's how you want to engage with it. But yeah, the first time I was doing it, I was like not really wanting to. I was like, no, I don't want to make this thing a real thing inside of me. This time, sure, you know, why not? Why not do that for a while? If I don't like the experience, I can always stop. I can always choose to no longer engage with it. But it is interesting. Reading No Longer Human is kind of fun. It's feels very autobiographical. Apparently, the guy who wrote it committed suicide shortly after having finished it. Guess his life's work was done.
If I'm not posting, how do I even know that I'm alive? If I'm not posting, how does anyone else know that I'm alive?
When I first watched the Wendell videos, I tried pretty hard. There's video. I tried pretty hard to integrate some of the editing techniques. I don't know if you call it editing techniques, but some of the directing, I guess. There's a video, I believe it's Radical Empathy. I think it's Radical Empathy. And that one has some of that, like zooming in and zooming in on the things that I'm using through the video as a way of documenting the sources. But I generally am too lazy to do that because it goes against my workflow, really. I don't plan ahead generally when I'm talking about things, the things that I want to like cite, I guess. And part of me views it as a game for the future. You know, what are all these things that are being referenced? I'll probably do it for this video. I'll probably throw in the link to it visually in that way. Thanks for the feedback. I'm generally what is the word? Apprehensive, I guess, about showing my face on video because I don't feel confident in it. I can see myself in the mirror, the black mirror, and I see like all of this stuff, and I see this thing, and it makes me uncomfortable. It triggers some amount of dysphoria, because I don't see the anime waifu staring back at me that I internally see myself as. And so, you know, I'll try. This is me trying.
No, Jelly. Dogs are better than cats. Dogs are better than cats. Cats don't love you. Cats love themselves. Dogs love you.
So, cats are better than dogs, and it's because they love themselves. That's my opinion, but you have to forgive the differences or whatever, you know. You know, dogs need people. That, I mean, they don't need them. You have wild dogs and such, but you know, dogs make a huge place in their heart for their caretakers, and you know, I understand. I understand this being a perceived as a positive thing, but to me, it speaks to the weakness of the individual who has who has the need for it, right? Like a lot of people need that unconditional love from a lesser sentience or whatever, in order to get that fulfillment in their life. It fills a gap that they can't fill themselves, and cats don't have that problem. They are able to express their own self-love enough within themselves that they you know, they can take or leave anything that you give them, because at the end of the day, they are only out for themselves. And this may be a more shallow and dim view of thinking about things, but it is the way that the current me and all past me's really have viewed things. Yeah, I'd rather find within myself that fountain of self-love, and be able to be fulfilled within myself, and not need the outside reification of love that the dog in a life would bring. Now, I obviously I'm not like saying like everyone who has dogs is an incomplete and piece of shit person for that. That'd be mean, and I try not to be mean, but I do have the thoughts. You know, I like being mobile too. I like being able to go from place to place and take with me the abilities and powers that I have access to, which is why I have my grimoire, my magic tome here. This is an e-ink display, a e-ink reader, a Nova device called Alice. And Alice is quite the powerful little thing. And it doesn't have all the niceties of an Android tablet necessarily, but it does have quite the feature set. So it has a pen and paper kind of feel. I'm able to do drawings on it. So we can do drawings here, and sometimes it's kind of slow when it comes to certain things, but the writing works pretty good. Let's zoom out, and you're able to create written notes and various things like that. But this is where I do most of my writing, is on here. And I have this to go along with it. Little Bluetooth keyboard. Because I don't like writing on small little screens. It's no good. I don't care about that. So I've done a lot of writing on here. Like heavy. It's one of the chapters of the story that I was writing. Yeah. It lets me go outside and write things, and it has incredible battery life because it doesn't have to do full color and such. Part of that is slow, but it also displays things when it's off. You can go stand by and it still has the display on. You can put little memos in there and such. I don't generally do that. In fact, I'm probably going to turn off that screensaver so it goes back to the way it was. But yeah, it's a pretty nice little thing that lets me do writing outside and on the road. The only problem that I have with this form of communication is that I don't know how far into the future it is bulletproof. Text is clearly more bulletproof as long as digital logic will persist and the bytes that store the plain text files continue to exist. We'll be able to recall that information, whereas video is much more temperamental. It is prone to being broken by new formats, outdated things become hard to view. We even have experienced this. I've experienced this through my own lifetime. All those flash games and stuff that were super popular in the early 2000s and even the 2010s now are very difficult to consume now because that format is an outdated one, and so it becomes difficult to want to invest wholly into something like video, and even more into something like game design and stuff like that. Currently, we live in a world where there is huge amounts of energy, but we see on the horizon through turmoil, the prices of gas and whatever rising, and that will have impacts on what kind of technology can persist into the future. And so video takes a lot of processing power, and nobody's going to want to wait like 10 minutes for a video to decompress into a format that can be displayed on a display, and the kinds of displays that are lower power and smaller scale. Who wants to watch a video on a 200 by 300 display? Nobody. So audio is a bit more bulletproof than that. So I don't know. It's a difficult situation, and I am constantly concerned with collapse. If you're not aware of the concept of collapse, it's the idea that during the Roman Empire, if you lived like during Nero's time, would you have known that the empire was falling? And most people probably didn't. Most people probably didn't see the signs of their times and seeing that their empire was falling. But with hindsight we have now, we are able to take those lessons and see that the Western Empire is in a state of decline. It's more noticeable in places like technology. Now, a lot of people who just dwell on the surface of technology may not notice, but those who are in software engineering and things like that, seeing how the stack, the software infrastructure stack has become so bloated with so much garbage, and nobody knows enough to be able to fix things. And this problem is not just limited to the software realm. It exists in all of our logistics systems and everything. And so it becomes apparent that in as short as 20 years, I'm being optimistic for what I actually believe, but in as little as 20 years, we could see decline that makes things like this much less viable. And as far as 100 years from now, will anyone be able to watch this? Maybe, but maybe not. And I am concerned with things like that. It's not like I think that what I'm saying now is necessarily worthy of existing 100 years from now and being viewed by people, but in the case that it is, how would it be able to be parsed? And the answer there would be, I need to go through all of my videos and convert them all into a text file or into text files. That's the only way to really hedge my bet as far as that's concerned. It's difficult. I say that a lot. A lot of things are difficult, though. A lot of things are complicated and messy and gross.